Hey everyone, just give everyone a few minutes to join and then we'll kick off. Hi everyone, we'll kick off. We've sort of got, I think, all the numbers that we'll get for today. So what are we discussing today on Access to Text? We're going to do an Access to Text on the road review, CPQ automated provisioning overview, tax support update coming soon, excuse me, ICS provisioning updates, so iCall suite and some updates on how to provision that. And we'll do some end of financial year reminders. And then at the end, we'll also do some questions as usual. So today you have Mitch and myself. Mitch is Solutions Consultant and myself, John Kennedy, Head of Solutions here at Access4. So just to go through a quick review of Access to Text on the road. So we had 5 cities, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth throughout Australia over a 3-week period. We had 11 Access4 staff go through the sessions. So we had different staff at most of the sessions, but we had about 11 people across the board from Access4 sit with our partners, the technical teams of our partners, and discuss many things through the Access to Text on the road. We had 64 amazing partners join us. To those that couldn't join us, it would have been great to see you. Next time we run it, we hope to see you as well. We loved meeting everyone, seeing everyone, discussing multiple issues that are going on, but also things that we're doing within Access4 as well. And also really great input into our ideas portal discussions that we had. We've got 1 city left to go, that's Auckland. We'll be in Auckland next week on Wednesday evening to complete the last Access to Text on the road. We also have the Access4 Roadshow as well in Auckland, which will complete that night as well. So looking forward to seeing all those people who have registered for Auckland. If you haven't registered for Auckland yet and you live in New Zealand and you're close to Auckland or can make it to Auckland next week, I suggest you do so because it is a great session. We find that all of our partners get a lot out of it, and we love seeing you as well, especially because it'll be one of the first times that a lot of us are over there to be able to discuss these things with you in person. So what we discussed through the whole process was the CPQ provisioning deep dive. So the CPQ provisioning tool has been released already, and we went through a deep dive of that. And we did a bit of a provisioning run through. So Mitch sort of showed some people, I showed some people, and discussed what was going on with the provisioning tool and the reason why we created it, which I will also go through in a little while. The SMS gateway. So I know a lot of you have been waiting for the SMS gateway to come out. So we did a demonstration of the portal, including sending an SMS to the audience. So the people who were there, who had given us their mobile number in the registration, we sent a test SMS just to thank them for coming to the Access the Text on the roadshow. We had a UC Express sneak peek. The sneak peek sort of showed some of the things that will be going on within SaaSBOSS, the differences between how to create an enterprise currently and what it will look like within UC Express at the moment around simultaneous calling, external channels, and a few of the other nuances around UC Express, which we will discuss further in this webinar. And also beta and training are coming soon. So we are working with the beta partners at the moment around the beta for UC Express, but also later May, June time, we are looking at hosting the actual UC Express training for the product when it comes live in July.
If you're interested in that training as well, reach out to your PGM or solution consultant so that way you can be part of that early board training before it goes live as well.
Operator Connect. So most of you will know that Operator Connect is being brought out by Microsoft to assist with direct routing for those customers who require the ability to be able to choose their carrier. So we saw this as a requirement to make sure that you as partners can compete with tier ones and tier twos that are registering for Operator Connect, and will have themselves available on Operator Connect. We did a bit of an overview of what the difference between Operator Connect versus direct routing was as well, just to give you an idea of what the differences will be. We had some tech updates. We had an update from our GM of operations around his new customer experience for the whole of Access 4. So a lot of that will be positioned on the TAC initially to give you as partners a greater customer experience and make sure that you are getting the responses within the timeframes that you feel you require. Of course, there will be SLAs and all those things around that, but there will also be a customer experience framework that the whole of Access 4 will be working towards. Our ideas portal discussion. So we had discussion with our R&D team. So Anne from our product team was in all of the sessions for Access the Text on the road. In a few of the sessions, we had our Director of Development, Saj, in there, and also discussing with some of our partners around some of the R&D that we're doing around Ideas Portal. Some of the ideas we'd already launched or started working on from a roadmap perspective, but some of them were to get on the roadmap. I know from those sessions, we've actually had a sort of about 5 or 6 items that have moved from being ideas on the Ideas Portal that will be moving onto the roadmap to be able to be productized and then developed by the development team in the near future. So we will have a tax support update coming soon. We haven't presented that here, but we will get Ben Jones, our GM of operations, in the next few months to discuss that.
So around this is we've putting in place some changes to our support logging process. So we've had some feedback from our partners like yourselves around the steps that it takes to log a support case at the moment is a little bit tedious and there's a lot of steps to it. So most of you have probably run through this process at some stage where when you go to log a case, it's asking you some fields around, is it affecting the whole customer, which customer, of course, is it expecting all groups? Is it just a single user or is it all users from within that organization. And then it's asking for a lot of details underneath that. So what kind of support, what kind of product is on those services? Have you done any troubleshooting? What the actual issue is, those kinds of things it's asking for at this high level. And then it then prompts you for what's some call examples. So whether it's relevant or not, it prompts you, gives you this prompt of what's a couple of call examples of what happened to this user or to this group, of the bad calls or things like that. And then finally, it asks you for additional information, which oddly enough was a required field, even though on that page it actually says that it's not. And then also some attachments as well. So we took a lot of feedback from our partners around this, and it was a little bit tedious. We had a lot of partners call up into our TAC to get our TAC to log it for them instead of just doing it themselves, things like that as well. So we're taking this feedback, we're actually modifying a lot. This is already gone through our product team. It's with our development team to build it internal. So we'll do an internal release for this first, and we'll make some changes from that perspective. So in the new process, very similar to previously, when you do log a case, it is going to ask you for, is it affecting which enterprise it's affecting, so which customer, and then is it affecting the entire customer or just a single user or group within that. If it is affecting the entire customer, it's then going to prompt you saying what's actually happening. Give us a little bit of information and some attachments at the bottom there. So have you done some troubleshooting, that kind of thing at a high level? If it's not affecting a whole customer, it's only a subset of a group within it, for instance, it then prompts you for which group it is. And once you give it that, say that it is just that group, once again, it's going to ask you that same kind of information. What's the issue? So just a single subject field and a large text box to put in more information, and then what troubleshooting you've done with it as well. And at the bottom, attachments if you do wish to upload them. If it's not just a single group and it's just a single user, we're literally asking for the same information. We're not changing the field at all. Is it an enterprise, a whole customer? Is it a single site or group? Or is it a single user? And all we're going to be asking for is subject line, description of what's happening, any troubleshooting steps you've provided for us, and some screenshots if you have them, or any uploads you wish to provide. So that could be logs of the computer they're on, anything like that. So we've got rid of a lot of the fields within the system from that perspective. And our TAC team will be taking care of that going forward once the case is logged on our side. If it is urgent, of course, there is no urgency field anymore. So if it's urgent, still call us up immediately. So that way we can jump on it as soon as possible. Otherwise, this will be going live in the next few months. And then the option of what troubleshooting has been provided as well is also an optional field. So if you've done very basic troubleshooting, you've reset the computer, you've reinstalled the application, something like that, that's fine. Or you've already spoken to our TAC team, we've done some things that we already know what's going on. You don't have to provide that information. If you have, select yes, put in that information into that screenshot into that section as well. Once it's done, there is just a confirmation page, like most things in SaaSboss. Yes, you want to confirm that it has been submitted. You hit submit and it takes you back to the portal where your support page where all your cases are. So we have simplified that process a lot from our perspective. We tried to get rid of all those redundant fields, everything like that, and making that process a lot smoother and easier for yourselves to go through, rather than just calling up our TAC team and getting us to do it for you as well.
Over to me. So what we're going to talk about now is the automated provisioning with CPQ. I'll give a high-level view, and then Mitch will go through and do a bit of a demo. So the reason why we built the provisioning tool is to allow you to be able to provision in minutes. So we've built the CPQ tool premium to be able to build call flows with your clients and simply get a lot of the SKUs correct through a simple process of building that call flow. And that allows you to then not miss any SKUs, not miss any users or anything that you need. And it has a lot of checks and balances in there to make sure that that's all done well. So the next step for us was to then build the provisioning tool, which then allows you, instead of having to go out of the solution and start slowly building through, like creating an enterprise setting all the groups up, making sure you've got the call line ID, putting in a simple menu-driven system that allows you to then just sort of follow the bouncing ball, which means then you're able to give that to any other part of your team. So as discussed, the call flow designer will allow you to build quotes in intuitive visual call flow. It allows you to select hunt groups, call queues, users, IVRs. You can select faxes and other things to be able to put on to the call flow, which then get added to the BOM. You can also add more to the BOM if you need to. So if there's other things that aren't in the call flow, you can add other licenses through the license tab. You can add devices, you can add DIDs. You can also add additional fees. So if you've got an installation fee, or you've got a management fee, you can add that to that through a premium call flow tool. And then you're able to send it out as a proposal to your client and have them sign that and work through that. Of course, as I just said before, the next step is to generate the proposal, send that out, but it's also to automatically provision into SaaSBOSS. So at the moment, what you would need to do is you'd send that proposal off, you get the signed proposal back, you might hand that to your provisioning team. The provisioning team would then have to go through and manually do each of the steps that are listed in the picture on the right-hand side there. So they'd have to build the enterprise, make sure that they set up any porting or any DIDs within that and make sure that they purchase them through the proper process. They then have to order the devices through the device ordering process. Then you'd have to create all the groups manually yourself within the enterprise. Then you'd have to create the schedules and add each of the schedules to all of the areas that you need to. You then have to create services, users, and announcements as well. Whereas what we've done here is we've made it really simple to automatically provision within SaaSBOSS. So you do all of those steps, but you do it from one window. And the idea is that it's a really simple to follow process. You do it through, say, for example, there's a few things you need to do in the enterprise. You might need to do some stuff in the DIDs. But once you go through each of those, you can mark them as done. And at the bottom, all you have to do is hit provision call flow. And then that will automatically provision in the background and send you an email. So the benefit of being able to do that from an automated provisioning point of view is that you don't necessarily need a level 3 engineer or a level 2 engineer to be able to deploy the solution. So you could have it where you've built a solution through the call flow tool premium, and you can hand that over to a service desk tech that is able to potentially provision that call flow to a reasonable degree without much intervention from a higher level technician. So that gives you a lot cheaper cost to deploy. And allows you to do that faster as well. So you could do that at any time during the day. They can get an email back which tells them that provisioning is completed. And then you can have, if there's any issues with it or if there's any errors, you can pull in a level 3 tech at that point. And then they're only working on that issue. They're not working on the whole deployment. So that saves you money. It also trains up your staff to show them to be able to look at things as well. So what I'll do now is I'll hand over to Mitch to be able to do a bit of a demo on the CPQ provisioning tool.
Thanks for that, John. So what we've got here is an opportunity which has been placed into the CPQ within SaaSBOSS. So I've got a quote here, and within this quote, because it is part of the premium solution or from our CPQ tool, you've actually got a full call flow in here. So within this, I've got licensing assigned to these call queues, to these extensions, everything like that. So our system, because it uses this to be able to create the build of materials for the quote and proposal as well, we can then use this information to actually do the deployment, of course. So once all of that's in place, we've made sure that we've got things like names against users, anything like that that's usually required to do a solution. We can then go to our provisioning step. So I'm just going to quickly move this because I've got a bar in the way. So from SaaSBOSS into the enterprises, similar to doing a normal build from a registered opportunity. In here, you have your opportunity lined up and you have a view solution button. So when I click on this, it's going to give me some information around the customer, what's going on, any notes or anything like that that was on the opportunity as well as that quote. So if I wish to go back to the quote, I can see what's going on from this perspective, see what's being quoted, or have a look at the proposal that was done for the customer as well. I can also have a look at the call flow. So I can have a look, I've got an IVR here, I've got an enhanced call queue that's been selected with a single user underneath it. I've also got a hunt group as well with a user underneath that as well. So it's a fairly basic core flow, not a very big one from our perspective, but from a scale on this product, it doesn't matter which products you're doing from our broad source side. So any of our core queues, hunt groups, IVRs, any of our user model, anything like that can be done. It doesn't do Microsoft Teams calling at this stage. However, that is currently being worked on as well as a future update. So we'll be able to do Teams calling in the near future. But at this stage, I have a provision this flow button. This then takes you to a workflow, which is fairly similar to the kind of pages that you go through normally to be able to provision a customer. However, it's all consolidated to a single menu item. So like normal, first thing you need to do, create an enterprise. So it gives you the same enterprise creation field or prompt as it does normally when creating an enterprise. And it pulls across that information from the opportunity. So I already know that this is a bundled customer. So it's already putting in my call packs here. If I wanted to do a sandbox, I can do that here as well. I can just generate a quote for this, select a domain. So I can either use a new domain or use one that's already been provisioned. I'm just going to get John to type in a new domain for me. Perfect. And an address for the customer as well. So similar to our normal enterprise creation screen, pulls up that information like normal, also pulls across the contact from the opportunity as well. And I can click create enterprise. So this does just take a couple seconds like normal to create the enterprise, but it's going to be running through like normal. So it does create it in real time from our perspective. And then comes across, says enterprise created. It then when this happens, the quote that was created by your sales team is now in a read-only mode. So they won't actually be able to modify that quote again. If they need to make changes or re-quote anything for the customer, they actually do need to create a new quote from that perspective. However, at this stage, it's good to be, it means that changes won't happen on that side and break something on our side kind of thing. So that's the reason why this happens. If I click back on that left-hand menu now, it's now saying, yep, my enterprise is created. Under porting, I know that I need a single DID in my quote. So I'm just going to request a new DID and it opens up my DID inventory menu like normal. Just type in 04 or ATT. There we go. I don't know why my main group is not coming up for this. That's fine. Should be able to continue without it. Quantity of one. With the group. Okay. So we are doing this in a demo reseller that's been created. So this is where our development team are doing testing and things like that. So we may run into occasional issues like this. We use this purely so that we can make sure that we're catching these issues before we release them to our larger partner base. So once again, using our APIs up into our upstream carriers, purchasing numbers in real time, and we'll apply it to the customer straight away as well. Just while this is provisioning, I will also talk about another update which went live last week as well. So something else we released last week was a new Help Me tool built into the platform. So you'll notice that it will prompt you for different things now. It's being used to announce training that's coming up, webinars for the business, things like that. But it's also got all of our guides and things like that built into it as well. So if you're looking for ways to do things on the platform, how to provision things, all of that is all being built into that new tool. And you'll see that's being built on as we go from our operational team as well. So there's going to be constantly new things added to that over the next few months. If there's something missing from that you wish to see, just speak to your PGM or your solution consultant, and we can try and get things added to that from our perspective. I'm just going to see if I can grab a number from our inventory and apply it to this customer straight away. So because I went away from the screen, if you do move away from the provisioning screen to get back to it, all you got to go is back into the enterprises, and it will still be here as a view solution option. So we can jump back into this, back into our call flow. And in here, I see now that I've got that allocated DID. So I can mark this as a done solution. Devices, if you need to order devices for your customer as well, can be done through here. So if you and that just takes you to the standard ordering page if needed. Otherwise, I'll mark this one done as well. Groups. So it did create your main group by default, but if you need to create new groups, you can do that through here as well. So create as many groups as you need to for your customer, as well as setting things like your group calling line ID can be done through this option here as well. So I'll apply that here and just click save on that one. Schedules. So our call flow didn't have any schedules assigned to it, but if there's anything in the proposal or call flow around scheduling, it will show it up in this list of what has been proposed for the customer for their services or anything like that. And you can actually create schedules here, and it will take you to the standard schedules creation page where you can create those for the customer as well. For this one, I'm just going to click mark as done. Under our services, it will come up with all of our group services that were created. So I've got my RVR and my group and my call queue here. As you can see, they're all ready to provision. If there was an issue around from a licensing issue, so the service pack wasn't selected for one of them or something along those lines, it would give you that error here. As you can see, I do have an error at the top here, so I'm just going to refresh this page. Jump back in here. Yep. So group calling line is done. So I'll mark that as done. From my users perspective, I've got two users here. So one in my call queue, one in my account group, and they've got all the licensing, everything applied to them. So if I come in here, I can see I've got my call queue license. I've got a phone number and email address applied to them if needed. So I'm just going to mark these done as well. And finally, announcements. So it's pulling all the call queues, hunt groups, IVRs, everything like that that needs announcements by default. And I can turn on, so my support call queue here, if I wish to do a comfort announcement, I can turn that on here, which means once it's deployed, it's going to be on there. I can also do all the standard things around recording announcements at this time or uploading them if I need to as well. So you can set all your announcements at this time before going live. Once again, I'll mark that as done. And finally, I got to provision this call flow button. So once you hit this button, it does mean that the call flow designer will stop. So it's provisioning the services in the background. If you need to make any changes after this point, so updating user IDs, provisioning more users, anything like that, it is done the standard way at this time. So this is purely doing your initial configuration for the customer. But if I hit provision this flow, hit confirm, and it's now running. The way this system works is every 5 minutes, it runs a task on our side to provision this call flow, and it provisions them all at once. So from our perspective, it takes about, from your perspective rather, it will take about 5 to 10 minutes for it to run through, depending on how many services you're creating, everything like that. And also if you've just missed the batch job on our side. Once it is done, you get an email saying it's complete. If there was any errors or anything like that that occurred during the way for a user not having a phone number or an email address or something like that, or user ID was invalid, it will give you the user that had that issue, and you just need to provision them manually. Alternatively, if there was a massive, everything failed because the calling line ID wasn't set, something like that, it does give you that error. And if that is the case, you can actually come back in here and hit that button again, and it'll reprovision them from that perspective. So it is quite simple to run through. It doesn't matter how many users it has within the call flow, how many call queues, sub IVRs, anything like that. It is that same process to run through, and you can get a customer up and running pretty quickly from this perspective. So that being said, it is a part of our CPQ premium product set. So there is a cost involved with this from our partner perspective. And if you're part of the free version, you still get being able to register deals, everything like that. You can do the build materials. However, the premium version is where you get that call flow designer, because we need that. That is how we're doing the provisioning piece. It is part of that that's required. So there is a charge involved with this, of course, because of that. Next on our agenda is iCall Suite. So we have had a few updates to iCall Suite that happened about 6 months ago. However, we have had a few questions come through both to our solutions team and to our tech team, just around how to access things, how things are deployed nowadays. So that being said, quick overview of what's with iCall Suite. So there's 3 main licensing types. So essentials being your overall, just what's going on with your business, historical reports, that kind of thing. So just business insights is mostly what that one is. Your advanced add-on is where you start getting things like your full reporting catalog. So all of your scheduled reports, everything like that. Being able to your dashboards as well. So being able to put dashboards around your office saying what's going on with the phone screens, all of that. And then being able to create departments and groups for all your users as well. So being able to report on individual departments or anything like that from within your customer's organization as well. Finally, Ultimate, this week comes with all the real-time reporting and queue statistics. So this is what you're meant to be using for a call queue, to be able to get live data from a call queue, as well as your ACD wallboard. So seeing from an agent perspective, who's on calls, how many calls are in your queue, things like that. You can also get your call center agent supervisor consoles as well. So being able to give your customers access to be able to view what's going on with the call queue, give your customer or a supervisor being able to control that call queue itself, control their agents, things like that, all available through that solution. There's two add-ons as well. A projection. So if you are doing the wallboard, you do need to buy a projection license to be able to put it up on a screen, and that's just licensed per however many screens you need as well. And the other one's CRM. So a lot of partners don't realize that iCall Suite can do a CRM integration as well. Can do 100,000 records, so a really large CRM, being able to pull a lot of data from that perspective. It's read only, so it's not pushing data back into the CRM, however. So if we do have that requirement, Go Integrated Kara is where we be able to push records back into the CRM or put data back in there. This is read only, so it's only going to be able to grab a customer name, do a screen pop, that kind of information. And then you can report on what teams were answering what calls from your customer base as well. So for your customers, if they wish to access iCall Suite from their perspective, you do need to log into SaaSBoss first. So you need to give them access to SaaSBoss. They log in with their service ID. And at the bottom there, or in the middle of it, rather, there's a new button saying access iCall Suite or go to iCall Suite. So from that, it will then single sign them into iCall Suite so they can access their reporting or their agent console or anything like that. So it is actually being accessed through SaaSBoss now. From our partner's perspective or from your perspective, so you also have access to via SaaSBoss. However, it's in a slightly different spot. So under resellers on the menu on the left-hand side, if you go actions on the right, so that red drop down, you then have an iCall Suite service portal. That portal actually takes you to a list of all of your customers. So any customer you have, which is provisioned with iCall Suite, you'll be able to see them in here. And then if you click on the view logins button, which is the right-hand column within the system, you can see all the users who are assigned licenses within iCall Suite for that customer, what license type they have. So whether they're a supervisor, whether they have an ultimate license, anything like that. And if you click on that right-hand button there, which is view portal, you can actually log in as them into the portal as well. So if they're having questions around reporting, for instance, or a supervisor saying they're having some weird issues with their console, you can actually log in as them and see what's going on from that perspective, not just getting screenshots or screen sharing or something like that, being able to see live data from their side.
And thanks, Mitch. Thank you very much. That's really good around the provisioning tool as well as iCall suite. So thank you. So just wanted to quickly give you end of financial year reminders. So end of financial year is coming up and we thought it was important to just quickly go through a few things that you need to be mindful of due to some timings that you need to be aware of should you want to do porting or order devices. So this year, we are suggesting that you have all your Cat-C ports in by May the 15th to make sure that they make it in time for June 30. And your Cat-A ports by the 1st of June to allow for the influx of people doing so. And then access for on-net ports, so within the SaaSPOS system by June 15th. And for devices, so ordering devices through the system, do that before June 1st to make sure that you get them ordered and delivered by the end of financial year, because there is always an influx of people ordering devices and devices just go out of stock really quickly due to the fact that, excuse me, so many people are ordering to make it by June 30. So next is questions. So we have a couple of questions here. We have one from Nick Cullen. Where are you going to migrate the old customers? When are you going to migrate the old customers into the new portal?
So all the old customers, that is a progress that's going underway at the moment. The issue was single sign-on from SaaSPOS because of the new portal not being able to move them across. So it is a program that's underway from our product team to see what we can do around that. I don't have a timeline on that at the moment, however. I will see what I can find out for you and reach out to you. It's no problem.
One from Anthony Gilbert here. Is this change from MS going to affect any telephony services for Teams-based users? SIP certificate to MSPKI certificate authority change. I'm not too sure on the SIP certificate side of things, but from an Operator Connect perspective, what it is direct routing directly through Microsoft. So there's API integration to be able to get all that set up really quickly. And then all the control is within the Microsoft tenancy. Whereas through SaaSPOS, all the control is through SaaSPOS. You order the numbers through SaaSPOS, you put them all through there, and you control them all through, you know, the user, whether it's you using the user model or you're using the direct route model from a certificate point of view.
Yeah. If that is a different certificate that's being changed, we have not heard about it. However, if it is going to break anything or anything like that, our infrastructure team would probably be across it already. So, and if that is the case, we'll be reaching out to all of our partners in regards to that update directly anyway.
Plus, you can always log a tag ticket with us and we can work through that with you when you are looking at potentially, if you are looking at potentially going through Operator Connect. So the process for doing that is the client will go through Operator Connect and they'll get a window where they need to type a whole heap of information in to be able to register for Operator Connect with Access 4. Again, I suggest that partners would do that themselves with their client to make sure that they put the information in that they want them to and that the actual query comes back to them as a partner. And when that happens, then we can discuss around certificates and other things that come up that might be an issue. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Is anyone? I'll leave a minute or so for anyone other questions, but other than that, that is all we have. So just give it a minute. Just allow people to type. And just to top off there as well. Okay, we've got a question here from Lyndon. Are you full with the UC Express beta users?
Yes. So our beta trial, beta for UC Express kicked off last week. So we do have, I believe it's 11 partners in that in total, which is actually more than we were hoping to get, which is actually a good thing. And however, our early partners for training and being able to see what's going on with the product, that starts next month. So reach out to your account manager or your PGM around getting access to that as soon as possible. and mostly just whoever has the more better leads from that perspective, or customers that I think it's going to work for, they're the ones we're going to get through the training first.
Daniel has asked, will you send us a recording of this webinar? We have a channel on YouTube called Access the Techs, attached to the Access for YouTube channel, and we will be putting the webinar up on that channel, Daniel. We can look at potentially sending it through with our email out.
Yeah, normally is part of the email out at the end, is included in that.
So Jerome has asked, can we integrate our pricing in the CPQ tool when creating the BOM?
Yes. So if you have custom pricing with the free version of the CPQ tool, you'll have to add it on each time individually and create the new product every single time. With the premium version, you can actually pre-create all your custom products inside the system. And that way, when you do create the BOM, you can just select your standard installation fees or anything like that from that perspective. And it's always going to be the same.
All right, I'll leave a few more seconds for anyone else who might be typing. All right, it looks like we've got no other questions. Well, thank you all very much for coming to Access the Techs for this month. I would suggest that if you're in New Zealand, please register for the Access the Techs on the road, but also for the Access 4 Roadshow that is after the Access the Techs on the road. But if you are in Auckland and you are coming, I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you all for joining us.